That's what we were looking at just before the break in terms of mental dullness or stupidity. Because you're not registering the actuality of the situation. Here I am. What is this? Sensation in my buttocks, sensation in my legs, because I can't extend my legs. I've got them at a particular angle. My knees are giving messages. A lot is arising. This is life. I am in embodied life with my senses. So hopefully you can see the relationship of this to the sitting practice that we do through our open senses. Experience is arising ceaselessly, and we are present. Presence, if we really relax into it, doesn't change, and experience is always changing. Presence is hidden by conceptualization, and the ceaseless flow of experience is hidden by conceptualization. Conceptualization is like a wall, an opaque wall that hides in both directions. You don't see the open ground of presence, and you don't see the particularities of what's arising in the moment. So anything can remind you, oh, it's just this, it's just this. Just this. Whatever it is, just this. You have to go into a hospital, go through the swing doors, you can be aware of maybe some anxiety or fear, or there's a particular smell in the air. You look at the people, you see the nurses are quite happy, they're all chatting because they're not sick, and you see the patients, they're all looking a bit, woo-hoo-hoo. Oh, then you have, oh, this is what is arising. Having a thought about it doesn't really do anything, but oh, this is this, this is this. Because when we move into death, the capacity to maintain the overarching narrative goes down. If you sat with people who are dying, they're not giving an overview about their existence. That vanishes, and they're just there. There's just breath. The eyes looking up. Then the breath starts to change, going into this chain breathing. I'm vanishing. That is to say, they can't hold themselves together through a conceptualizing of identity or the performance of a narrative account of what's going on. These two capacities are dissolving. And it may be that a lot of the time in our lives we don't actually need these capacities. These abilities actually are an obscuration, but in our dualistic world they appear like a clarification. So we could see the difference. Now actually, if you're just sitting in the car and you're in touch with what's happening in your body, to most people looking from the outside say, hey, what's happening? What are you doing? Why aren't you start the engine, let's go. What are you doing? You're not doing anything. You're receiving what is. This is the happening. I think, oh, moment by moment, this incredible richness of life is happening with me as part of it. I'm on the inside. This is the integration of subject and object. And you can drive the car exactly in that mood. It will make you a careful driver because you're very attentive to everything that's going on. You're not spacing off in thoughts. You're just here. And here is dynamic and interactive, so that the presence, unchanging, is not interfering with the movement of subject and object as you overtake a car and then you park. Subject and object are movements of energy within the mirror of the mind. The clarity of awareness is not the subject, but the more you allow yourself to be present as the subject, you start to relax into open awareness. Does that make sense? So that's what you can continue all day long, whatever you're doing. And when you get distracted and you find yourself kind of alienated from presence and you're just thinking about things or making lists, or you're sitting in a meeting and you find yourself doodling because you're bored with what people are saying, oh, this is suicide. I am killing myself while I'm alive. I'm not here. But it's boring being here. Now, why is it boring? Boring is our inability to inhabit the situation. Because we don't like it, or we don't like what the other person's saying, or I've had enough of it. So we are installing a limit that causes us to not give our full attention to what's there. But what is there? What is there is not our concept about what is there. What is there is what is showing itself. So we can pay attention to the postures and gestures of people in the meeting. In the meeting, we can listen to somebody's voice, even if they're incredibly boring and tedious, and you've heard it before and you don't want to hear it again. You're not hearing, you're interpreting. What do we hear? We hear sound. We interpret sound as information. If that person was speaking in, I don't know, Portuguese, we probably wouldn't understand what they were saying. But they speak in English, we know English, so English is a kind of catching capacity. This sound which comes out can now be comprehended, first of all apprehended and then comprehended by me, because I understand English, they're speaking in English, and we can get a fit. But what did I hear before I interpreted? Sound. So in the tantric tradition it says, after you do the dissolving practice and you're entering into identification with the deity, all sound is the mantra, the sound of mantra, the sound of sound and emptiness. Mantra means mind protector. It means it's a sound which has an energetic presence, but the semantic content is not so important. So if you stay just with sound, you can listen to any old garbage. Listen to politicians. Why do you get upset hearing these particular politicians? Because of the working of your own mind. What they say is sound. Sound and fury signifying something. But we are Buddhists. So what we hear is sound and fury signifying nothing. We are punished by something and we are liberated by nothing. It's just sound. It's just sound. Sound is movement of energy. It's vibration. We remember that from school. The vibration in the air comes in your ear and sets off this vibration. That's all it is. We go into the interpretation of that. So that's our positioning. So I don't need to go into the interpretation. Of course, our interpretations have become habitual to us since we first came into language when we were 2 and 3 years of age and we started to swim in this ocean of conceptualization. It's become second nature to us to think that we hear what people are saying. But when somebody speaks, as I'm speaking just now, I'm sending out vibrations which can only be picked up by you if you have English language receptors. If you don't have that, you won't be able to pick it up. So we have receptors that operate in terms of the pitch of the sound, as we know with dog whistles, but in terms of the sound being able to be interpreted. It is a mental activity. So it's very, very useful, especially if you're traveling in the train and some bugger's on their mobile phone. It's very useful just to not enter into a reaction to it, not sort of blank off to try to avoid it, but just to hear, oh, this is sound. Because what's annoying is that you can sort of hear what they're saying. So either you want to say, shut up, or could you speak louder? Because this is quite interesting. But it's just sound. Just sound. So when we see things, people's behavior, throwing rubbish on the street and so on, it's just patterns of color. But they shouldn't do that. But they're not thinking that. I'm thinking that. So who is being disturbed? Me. How could they do that? They just did it. So there's a lot of mental activity which gets us aroused as if we should do something and something should be done, but we don't do it because we don't really have social permission anymore. And all that's happening is we're distressing ourselves. And we're caught up in a flow of concepts and not registering the immediacy of the light shining on the puddle. If we were 3 years of age and we had little red rubber boots on, that puddle would be very, very important. We would need to jump up and down in it until all the water was splashed out of it. But we look at the puddle and we don't register it. So that indicates again and again that meaning in the world is projective. It's associative. It's not inherent and it's not intrinsic. So this is the basic freedom. I don't have to align myself in identification with the current projection which is arising in my mind. If there is something to be done, if it is a workable situation, of course we mobilize ourselves and we say something or we do something, but a lot of the time we start to heat up or mobilize inside, but because we can't express it, we retroflect it, we turn it back into ourselves, and it sets the wheels running. Does that seem to link with your experience? And then all you have is agitation and disturbance, and more preoccupation, and more sensitivity to reactivity about the behavior of others. So again and again, stay with the senses as they are. Just what is being received. Not what, actually, what isn't the right thing to say. Something is there. The what comes when you come into some identification or naming or value judgment of it. But in fact, it's not even a somethingness. There's an appearance or a communication or a contact. And you're in connectivity because it's arrived. And then you like, don't like, want more of, want less of, and so on. But it's actually arrived. Sound comes to us, and then we think, well, why are they saying that? Well, it's already in. So if you stay just with the freshness of the arrival, maybe there's nothing much to make sense of it. Because the judgment is the allocation of the meaning, and this is what consciousness does. Remember, the meaning of consciousness in the Tibetan language, Nampa Shepa, is knowing shapes. It's formulation, it's organization, making sense of things. But prior to that, there's just knowing. The mirror just receives everything. So you will smell, you will taste, you will hear, but less obligation to do something with it, less reactivity. And so there's more space. And when there's a appropriateness of responding, a response will arise. But basically, more calm, more clear.